Greetings, my friends. Welcome to interesting, not necessarily inspiring, but interesting ideas. My name is Stan Houston. Have you ever had to say something when you just didn't feel like it? Well, of course, I've had to do that hundreds, perhaps thousands of times because I had a class to teach and I had to show up and teach it. And I had a radio program to put on and I had to show up and produce it. So I've gotten pretty good at finding something that might be helpful and useful. But in the midst of the crisis that is going on, it's hard to try and duplicate or to outdo, certainly easy to undo what is already being said. However, I just simply want to perhaps revisit a quote that I had on Sunday night. And that was from a mentor of mine who said, sometimes the way you're one of the 3%, Stan, is you kind of have the courage to face the truth and that you understand that reality is real. Reality is real. Well, what happened is that all of a sudden we discovered that reality is real once again. And there was a great quote that a friend gave me that went something like this. And it came from George Bernard Shaw, I guess. I'll take his word for it. And he said this: the problem with communication is that it didn't happen. The problem with communication is that it didn't happen. I think there's more truth in that than we might know, and it might be useful for you and me, and in the relationships we have, in the work we do, to perhaps give a few moments to that idea and see if we can make at least 10 or 15 minutes that will help you in your life and work today. That's the goal. That's the program objective, and let's see if we can pull it off. The program begins right now. One of the, coming across every morning, there's a certain number of things that I'm looking forward to every morning. I basically don't get my news from newspapers anymore. There are just a variety of small and oftentimes a very specific trusted publications that tend to be my sources of trust and information. One of those is City Journal, and here's where it was today. It comes out of New York City. It's more of a conservative or traditional publication, and the author is Martin Gurri. Don't know of him. Gurri. But now I have. He says, in Israel, the death of an illusion. Was the Jewish state lulled into slumber by a false sense of normality? The world is a harsh and violent place. Sometimes we forget that, and we must be reminded. On October 6th, Israel, in outward appearance, resembled a normal country. The military threat from its Arab neighbors had long been reduced to manageable levels. A high-tech boom had generated unprecedented prosperity, and carefree young people danced until morning in the night spots of Tel Aviv. Israelis felt safe enough to invest their considerable energies on sterile political controversies, American style. These mostly swirled around the current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a sometimes Trumpian figure who, like Trump, inspired wild apocalyptic predictions and acts of symbolic resistance. But the sense of normality was a dangerous illusion. On October 7th, Hamas, the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood that controls the Gaza Strip, burst out of its lair into Israel and began a systematic slaughter of the population there. Hamas rockets crashed into apartment buildings as far north as the outskirts of Tel Aviv. Hamas fighters shot at anything that moved, murdering civilians, carrying an untold number of Israelis back to Gaza as hostages. Whole families have been taken captive in one day of horror. More than 600 Israelis died, and more than 2,000 were injured. And at least 100 vanished into Gaza. Just some history. Ideologically, Hamas is a direct descendant of the fascist regimes that brought death and ruin to Europe in the last century and murdered millions of Jews. They espouse the Islamist equivalent of radicalism. The presence of Jews in formerly Muslim lands, to them, represents an unnatural perversion of the trajectory of history. The only purpose of the assault was extermination. The strategic objective was to murder Jews. It's unclear how deep into Israel the killers imagined they would reach, but there can be no doubt that they believed their work to be the first glorious step in yet another final solution. Martin Gurry from the City Journal. Check it out if you want to know more. And there's a considerable part of the program that goes on from there. Well, let's get back. Couple things. I oftentimes quote a hero of mine, and his name, Earl Nightingale, world-class speaker, teacher, broadcaster. And his line was, most of us don't need more educating, but all of us need reminding. A couple things also in regards to that. In effect, the Hamas, they have hopefully, they've been told, they've seen, it's happened to them many times before, that if you attack Israel, you will suffer terrible consequences. That's been communicated to them many times, both in words and in action. If you do this, we will do that, and it will be bad for you. And that has happened on a number of occasions. Well, I guess it didn't get communicated. As Bernard Shaw would say, the problem with communication is that it didn't happen. It didn't happen. That message, which is a true message, and which the Israelis are going to try and make it more true and real this time. The communication just didn't happen. They didn't get the message that doing what they are doing and doing what they did will be really bad for them. That was the message. That was the communication, and it didn't happen. Now, more and more, I am discovering, and all of you who've had life experiences as up and down and ragged and rugged as me, understand the truth of the Bernard Shaw statement. You thought something was clear. You thought something was communicated. You thought something was put in place so that people would know what's going to happen or what to do. And obviously, it didn't happen. Even a colleague related a simple story, something like this, where he had to give word to a customer of the bank he worked at that his loan had been denied. Well, that's not very good news. Well, he attempted to make it as gentle and kind as possible and thoughtful, all of those good things. And then the next day, he got a call from the person and said, when would he get the check? When would he pick up the check. And many of you are smiling at that, as I was when he told me that. How did that happen? The problem with communication is that it didn't happen. I think one of the things I want to encourage you is to be much more aware of that. Now, I'll give you another example of that possibility. Here's the deal. I have just, because of my move and a variety of situations, I have discovered that I need to make a change in both my personal and business banking to bring it further closer to home. Now I'm in North Carolina, and because of the past banking relationships, there have been mergers and sales and everything like that. So I've decided to make those changes. By the way, when I was in person, in the branch, as I say, talking to real people about real things in real time, things worked very well. No text, no emails, just come on in and we'll talk and we'll tell and we'll ask questions. And things went much smoother. As I said to them, it's so much better to be able, in a 4-minute conversation, to do what would have taken a 20-minute exchange of emails. And they looked at me and smiled and said, you're right. But like most banks, what they did is they also gave me a very nice, a folder about all of the services the bank had. And I took it, and it is, it's very attractive. I mean, it's like you've seen what I'm talking about. It's 4-color, it's glossy, it's very nicely done, and it's about 8 pages of things, and it lists all kinds of things about the bank and the responsibilities they have, the responsibilities that I have, the regulations that are in place, the rules and all of that, and the offers they have. And so they, of course, gave it to me. Here's what happened. I looked at it, looked quickly through it, and said, I don't want to read this thing. I can't read this thing. I don't have time to read this thing. I'm a busy small businessman. Do you know how long it would take me to read through all that stuff? Well, I didn't. I really didn't read through it at all. And that's the problem. Now, hopefully, the lawyers are covered, and that's primarily the purpose of it. And I have it right there in case perhaps I need to go back to it, but I didn't read it. Communication didn't happen. And I can guarantee you that in so many cases, in sermons that are given, sometimes in classes and lectures which are presented, in memos that were sent, in memorandums that were published, the problem with communication is that we assume that it happened. Well, the problem with the Hamas is they didn't get the message. Well, they'll get it now. Will they remember it? Who knows? But I'm absolutely convinced that the message will be given in stronger and firmer. And as I always say, don't just describe what you do. Demonstrate what you can do and do it. And this is sad, but there is going to be a lot of death and misery because finally the Israelis are going to make sure that this time Hamas gets the message. I'm Stan Houston. perhaps a helpful idea, look out for it. This means that you and I have to be very, very good at thinking about our communication. This also means that the fourth quarter in business is going to be difficult and tough. The world is in a mess, and this mess has consequences going to the food we purchase and the gas we seek to put in our cars and the sense of safety we all have. And when people are afraid, they don't buy things that are just pleasurable. All of the things that many of us do are not for their survival. So all of our businesses are going to be affected in some way by the fact that Hamas didn't get the message on October 7th. Interesting ideas. I hope they're instructive, but I also hope that you, and I pray for you, that you will have the resources and the ideas and perhaps some of the friendship and companionship and the ability to think and pray so you will be more ready for what is coming. I'm Stan Houston. Interesting ideas. I'll be right back. I'm in the business, as I say, of connecting you with your audience. I'm very simple. I'm trying to make sure that your audience, which is your customers and clients, get the message that it happened. And I know that the primary way you do that is not by sending letters or printing brochures. You do it by what I would call podcast radio and performance video, and by presentations that delight, and memories that are created, and challenges and realities which are demonstrated with power, precision, and impact. So that's the business we do, and you need to get better at it in this day and age, and we can help you. StanHouston@gmail.com, StanHouston@gmail.com. Check us out a little bit more, witradio.net, witradio.net. And as someone said, you can just kind of Google Stan Houston. Better than that, just put Stan Houston in the search of YouTube and see what comes up. There's 1,000 different things that might, and let's see. One of them just might be helpful for you. Again, all the best and blessings. Pray for the people of Israel, and whatever we can whisper a prayer for the poor folks in the Gaza sector who may not be guilty of anything wrong, but they're going to suffer because of what their compatriots have decided to do. Sometimes the message is not only clear, it's crucial, and sometimes it cuts to the quick. Best and blessings to you. Till next time, bye for now.